thought tonight would be different. Under the soft glow of chandeliers at Night's Lounge, I wore my best lace gelly and smiled at Twande, celebrating 9 years of vows and whispered promises. But the moment he stood to toast, his glass silenced the soft jazz, and his words cut deeper than any blade. To the woman who can't give me a son, I froze. My world blurred as the entire room watched my dignity shatter on crystal floors. Heart pounding, I fled into the Lagos night, my tears lost among the honking danfos. Then his phone buzzed, a single call from an unknown number. He answered, and the arrogance drained from his voice in an instant. My son, he's in hospital. The revelation stunned me. The child he mocked me for was his own, born of another woman. In a heartbeat, his pride crumbled, and I realized our marriage had been built on lies and silence. Tonight, I would reclaim my voice and my worth. It was supposed to be a night to remember. Our 9th anniversary. I wore the royal blue lace gown I had sewn just for the occasion. We were at Night's Lounge, one of the finest restaurants in Acacia GRA. The lights were soft, golden, the air smelled like grilled prawns and peppered snails. I had spent 2 weeks planning everything, called his friends, ordered his favorite palm wine, even booked the private VIP room. But my husband, Tunde, sat stiff. His Igbada looked regal, but his face was hard. No warmth in his eyes. He barely looked at me. I kept smiling. Maybe he was just tired. Maybe the day had been long at court. Tunde is a senior advocate, well respected, feared even. I watched him lift his glass of wine, and suddenly, he stood. He clinked the glass gently. Conversations paused. Laughter faded. All eyes turned to us. I adjusted my gelly and smiled, expecting a sweet toast. Something romantic. But his words cut through the silence like a blade. To the woman who can't give me a son, but gives me fine excuses instead. The room went cold. People gasped. I froze. My smile collapsed. I couldn't breathe. My chest tightened. I looked at the faces around us, pity, confusion, shame. I tried to speak, but my lips wouldn't move. Tears welled up. I stood, my chair scraping the tiled floor harshly. My gelly wobbled as I walked out, heels clicking with every painful step. The air outside hit me like a slap. I leaned against a wall, trying not to cry. But the tears came anyway. 9 years of pain, 9 years of loss, and this was how he chose to punish me? In front of people? For something I couldn't control? I don't know how long I stood there, crying silently under the flickering street lamp. Inside, Tunde didn't come after me. He stayed, sipping his wine like nothing happened. That was when it hit me, this man had stopped loving me long ago. Or maybe he never did. As I tried to pull myself together, I heard the door swing open. It wasn't him. Just one of his friends, say, giving me that awkward look, like he didn't know whether to comfort me or pretend he didn't see. I turned away. Then suddenly, someone rushed out, phone in hand. It was Tunde. I watched him. Tunde never runs. But he was almost jogging, eyes wide, voice low as he pressed the phone to his ear. He didn't even see me. He just froze by the curb. His whole body shifted, from arrogance to something else. I heard him say, "What do you mean he's sick?" Then his voice dropped. "My what? My son?" He staggered a bit, like the words slapped him. I turned slowly, my heart thudding. Son? My ears rang. Who was calling him? What son? I stood there, watching him crumble in real time. Tunde turned slowly, eyes searching, but not for me. He looked like a man who had just received news from the grave. His lips trembled. He tried to speak again, but his throat caught the words. Then he whispered, "Mon beau. I'm coming." He turned and rushed to his car. Still no glance in my direction. I remained rooted, confused, hurt, and curious. My phone buzzed in my purse. I didn't check it right away. My head was spinning. What did he mean by our son? Who was she? My chest tightened again, but this time, with a different pain. I finally sat on the pavement, the lace gown gathering dust beneath me. My makeup was ruined, my gelly half fallen. People walked past, some stealing glances, others pretending not to see. I opened my phone. There was a message from my cousin, Taupe, Naomi. I didn't want to say anything. But that woman, she called me. Said Tunde has a son. He's in LUTH. The boy is very sick. I blinked hard. My fingers went numb. That was the call. That's why Tunde panicked. So, it was true. He had a child. Outside our marriage. A son. The pain came in waves. Like contractions. Sharp. Deep. Unforgiving. All these years, my guilt, my shame, the silent accusations in his eyes, and the whole time, he already had a child with someone else? A son? And tonight, he dared to mock me for not giving him one? I felt sick. I stood up slowly, dusted my gown, and called Taupe. My voice was barely audible. Where exactly in LUTH? She answered quickly. I hailed a Kiki. No more crying. No more silence. I needed to see this boy. I needed to see what kind of truth was waiting for me there. The ride to LUTH felt endless. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. The Keek's engine rattled beneath me, but it was nothing compared to the storm in my chest. As we passed streetlights and Okadas, my mind wandered to our wedding day. Tunde's vows had sounded so genuine, promises of forever, of loyalty, of building together. How could he? After all we'd been through? I had nearly died after our third miscarriage. And this man had the audacity to father a child with someone else, and still treat me like I was the failure? When I got to LUTH, the scent of antiseptic and quiet whispers filled the air. The hospital corridors were dimly lit. I found the children's emergency ward and walked in. My eyes scanned the beds, and then I saw him. Tunde. Standing beside a small boy's bed. The boy looked no older than 6. Tubes ran from his nose. His skin was pale, lips dry. Tunde held his little hand like it was made of gold. He looked completely broken. I hid behind the curtain, heart pounding. My breath caught. That child, he looked like Tunde. Like our child would have looked. I stepped back slowly, tears burning my eyes. I didn't know what hurt more, seeing Tunde like that, or the ache in my womb knowing that child could have been mine. The curtain shifted behind me. I turned and saw her. The woman. She was younger. Pretty. Wore a simple blouse and wrapper. Her eyes met mine, and for a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she said quietly, "Madam Naomi?" I nodded slowly. I didn't mean for this to happen. I swear, she whispered. My lips parted but no words came. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for any of this. She led me to the waiting area. We sat in silence for a long time. She told me his name, Toby. That Tunde had been seeing her for years. That he promised to leave me. That she only found out about me after she got pregnant. My hands clenched. My throat burned. So why did you call me? I asked. Her eyes softened. Because no child deserves to suffer for adult mistakes. And because Tunde, he needs to know what he's losing. Her voice cracked. You loved him first. I didn't respond. My silence was the only strength I had left. I sat there, numb. Everything she said sounded like a faraway song, melody I didn't ask to hear. The betrayal, the child, the lies. I should have screamed. I should have slapped someone. But I felt empty. Like something had been scooped out of me. What's wrong with Toby? I asked, finally. Sickle cell crisis, she said. My heart dropped. Sickle? Tunde and I had done genotype tests years ago. We were both AS. The doctor warned us then. We ignored it. So, he didn't learn? He carried that same risk into another woman's womb? My God. I stood and walked slowly back toward the child's ward. Tunde hadn't noticed me yet. He was whispering something to the boy, brushing back his hair gently. For a moment, he didn't look like the man who embarrassed me. He looked like a father, afraid, helpless, human. My chest tightened. I wanted to hate him. But a deeper voice inside whispered, look at what pride has cost him. I stayed by the door, watching. Then, he turned. Our eyes met. His face twisted with guilt so raw, it made him look older. He opened his mouth to speak, but I turned away. I left the ward before he could speak. I wasn't ready. Not yet. I sat outside under the dim streetlight, phone in hand. Messages had started pouring in from guests at the restaurant. Some were angry. Some were confused. One of them, Uncle Biodun, wrote, "That was shameful, Naomi. You deserve better." I sighed deeply. For the first time in years, I felt clarity. This pain wasn't mine alone. It was shared by everyone who had ever told me to keep enduring. To keep praying. But endurance had turned me into a ghost in my own marriage. Enough. Tunde finally came outside. He stood a few feet away, hesitant. Naomi, he said softly. I didn't respond. He took a slow step forward. I messed up, he continued, voice shaking. I was angry, at everything. At God. At myself. At you, for things you had no control over. He paused. That boy, he's my son, yes. But I've never felt more ashamed. I turned to him, tears in my eyes. You broke me, Tunde. You didn't just cheat. You humiliated me. You made my womb your punchline. He fell silent. There was nothing left for him to say. We stood there for what felt like a lifetime. Two strangers wrapped in old promises, drowning in fresh wounds. I didn't plan for any of this, Tunde muttered, voice cracking. But I've learned tonight, legacy means nothing if you destroy love to chase it. I looked at him. For the first time in a long time, I saw past his pride. He looked lost. Small. And what do you want now? I asked. He shook his head. To fix it, somehow. To earn your forgiveness, even if I don't deserve it. I turned away. Some things apologies can't fix. I went back inside, not for him, but for the boy. Toby. I needed to see him up close. I needed to see what God had allowed in spite of my pain. When I entered, the nurse was adjusting his drip. The boy stirred. His eyes opened. Brown and wide like Tunde's. He blinked slowly at me. I forced a smile. "Hello, Toby," I whispered. He didn't speak, but his fingers moved, reaching for something. I stepped closer. He touched my hand. Just a light brush. My chest caved in. A boy I didn't birth, but somehow, his warmth shattered me. I sat beside his bed. The other woman stood at a distance, arms crossed, watching me with wary eyes. I didn't blame her. I would have done the same. But in that moment, I wasn't her rival. I wasn't Tunde's wife. I was just a woman who understood suffering, deep, silent, heavy suffering. I brushed Toby's forehead. "You're strong," I whispered. "You'll be okay." His eyes fluttered. I held back tears. I couldn't change what brought us here. But maybe, just maybe, I could change what happened next. Sometimes, healing starts with grace, even when it's undeserved. When I stepped out again, the sun was rising. The sky glowed soft pink, as if the night hadn't just ripped me open. Tunde was sitting on the curb, head in his hands. He looked up, exhausted. "How is he?" he asked. "Weak," I replied, "but fighting." He nodded slowly. "I'll take care of him. I'll be there. Every day." I believed him. Not because I trusted him, but because that child needed it. "We're done, Tunde," I said gently. "But don't fail that boy." His eyes filled. I walked away, my back straighter than it had been in years. The cab ride home was quiet. Lagos was just beginning to stir, hawkers setting up, mosque calls echoing from distant rooftops, danfos honking into life. As we passed familiar streets, I realized I hadn't even taken off my geli. It sat on my head like a crown of survival. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was my mother. She had called 6 times already. I answered, her voice panicked. "Naomi. Kilo Seal? I just saw a clip online. Tunde Nko?" I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Mummy, it's over. Everything. It finally broke." At home, silence greeted me. The kind that echoes off walls and mocks your every step. I walked in, kicked off my heels, and collapsed onto the sofa. My body ached, but it wasn't physical. It was the ache of years, of pretending, praying, and postponing my own healing. I glanced at the framed wedding photo by the TV. We looked so happy, so certain. I walked over, picked it up, and set it face down on the shelf. The house no longer felt like ours. It felt like mine. And for the first time, that didn't feel lonely. It felt free. The messages kept coming. Friends. Cousins. Even my pastor. Everyone wanted to know what happened. Some sent scriptures. Others sent prayers. A few sent gossip masked as concern. I muted the group chats. I wasn't ready to explain what it felt like to be publicly stripped of dignity. I opened my laptop instead and began typing, writing not about Tunde, not about betrayal, but about Naomi. The woman who survived 3 miscarriages. Who stayed silent too long. I titled the document, Womb of Fire. Maybe, just maybe, my pain had a purpose beyond tears. Later that afternoon, I heard a knock. Slow, unsure. I opened the door to find Tun's mother. Mama Dupe. Her eyes scanned my face. She didn't smile. "Naomi," she said, "I came to apologize." She stepped in slowly, sat down without invitation. I knew about the child. I begged him to stop. Her voice trembled. But I also failed you. I pressured you like you were a factory. I forgot that children come from God. I didn't speak. My heart was still sore. But hearing those words from her, it cracked something inside. A small crack, but a beginning. Mama Dupe stayed a while. She didn't try to defend her son. She just sat there, remorse written all over her wrinkled face. When I lost my third child, she said softly, I thought it was a curse. I blamed myself, then my own mother-in-law blamed me too. She looked at me with tired eyes. We repeat what wounds us, Naomi. But you must not. I nodded slowly. She stood to leave and placed a warm hand on my shoulder. God has not finished with you. Don't let pain write the last chapter. Her words lingered long after she left. The next day, I visited a therapist. I'd been avoiding it for years. Nigerians don't do therapy, they say. We fast. We pray. We carry on. But I was done carrying pain in silence. Her name was Dr. Adefunk. Middle-aged, calm, soft-spoken. Why are you here today, Naomi? She asked. I hesitated, then it all came pouring out. The anniversaries, the miscarriages, the shame, the dinner, and the child. She listened. No judgment. No pity. Just space. You've been holding your breath for 9 years, she said gently. It's time to exhale. That night, I dreamed of water. I was in the ocean, drifting, weightless. No pain. No voice yelling. Just waves and sky. I woke up with tears on my pillow. But they were different. Softer. Not from hurt, but from relief. Healing, I was learning, didn't come like thunder. It came like rain, quiet, steady, honest. I looked around my room, once filled with photos of us. Now, I saw space. Space to breathe. Space to begin again. I opened my journal and wrote just one line, I'm still here. And that, for now, was enough. Later that week, I visited Toby again. He was sitting up this time, holding a toy plane. When he saw me, he smiled. It was small, but real. His mother gave me a quiet nod as I entered. We'd spoken briefly since the last visit, nothing deep, just woman to woman. I brought Toby a book, Lion and the Fireflies. He opened it and asked, Auntie, will you read it for me? I sat beside him and began. His tiny head rested against my arm. I didn't know what this bond meant yet. But somehow, it was healing both of us. Tunde sent a long message. He poured everything out, his guilt, his fear, his shame. He said he hadn't stopped thinking about that night, about the way I looked at him when I walked out. I killed something sacred in you, Naomi, he wrote. I see it now, and I hate myself for it. I didn't respond. Not out of anger, but out of clarity. For once, his voice wasn't louder than mine. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need validation. I just needed peace. And peace didn't come from fixing broken men. It came from freeing myself. I began sorting through the house, old clothes, photos, memories. I found the first dress I wore to meet his family. I held it for a moment, then folded it away. Not everything old needs to be burnt. Some things can be archived. Stored. Honored. I wasn't trying to erase the past, just making space for a new kind of present. I painted the bedroom wall. Bought new curtains. Refilled the fridge with things I liked, coconut yogurt, sweet agbalumo, mint tea. It was my home now, and it was beginning to look like it. Pastor Ease called one evening. "Naomi," he said, "God restores. But sometimes, His restoration doesn't mean putting things back the way they were. Sometimes it means building something entirely new." I sat in silence as his words soaked in. I remembered all the times I cried on that church altar, asking God for a child, for healing, for a miracle. Maybe the miracle wasn't a child or a husband. Maybe it was me. Standing. Breathing. Whole. Maybe the restoration was the woman staring back at me in the mirror, finally knowing her worth. Tunde showed up at my doorstep unannounced. He stood there, holding a small box. "This is for you," he said. I hesitated, then took it. Inside was a silver bracelet, the one I'd once admired but never bought. "It doesn't fix anything," he said. "But I thought you deserved something beautiful." I nodded, unsure what to say. He didn't linger. "I'm in therapy too," he added quietly. "Trying to unlearn. For Toby. For myself." I respected that. Growth, even late, is still growth. I closed the door softly. This wasn't a new beginning. But it was a clean ending. Weeks passed. Life began to take a new rhythm. I started a small support group, Womb of Fire, just like the journal entry. Women from all over Lagos joined. Women who had lost babies, who had suffered in silence, who were tired of being defined by their wombs. We met every Saturday, drank zobo, shared tears and laughter. It became sacred. A safe place. Not just for healing, but for blooming. I wasn't just reclaiming my story, I was helping others reclaim theirs. My pain hadn't been wasted. It had become a garden. Toby started calling me Mummy Naomi. At first, it startled me. Then one day he said, "Because you read to me like a mummy." His innocence pierced through all the complicated emotions. I didn't know what would happen between me and his mother, or what role I'd continue to play. But for now, this child had a place in my heart. He reminded me that motherhood wasn't always biological. Sometimes, it was in presence, in comfort, in warmth. In a voice that says, "I'm here." And I was. I got an email from an international women's conference. Someone had read my Womb of Fire blog and wanted me to speak. I read the message 3 times before it sank in. Me? The same woman who once cried herself to sleep for being less than? Now being asked to share wisdom? God truly lifts from ashes. I called my mum. "You see," she said, "God was waiting for the right platform to use your tears." For the first time in a long time, I felt proud, not of surviving Tunde, but of becoming Naomi. That Sunday, I wore white. Simple but radiant. I walked into church alone, but not lonely. Heads turned. Not with pity, but with quiet awe. Pastor Ease paused mid-sermon when he saw me and smiled. After service, women came up to hug me, even some who had once whispered behind my back. "You've become a light," one of them said. I looked up at the sky as I stepped outside. Lagos sun, hot and blinding. But I wasn't hiding anymore. I had walked through fire and come out gold. Tunde sent one last message. It wasn't a plea. It wasn't even about us. He wrote, "Thank you, for raising your voice when I didn't deserve your silence. For walking away instead of staying to prove a point. For loving Toby in a way I still don't understand." I read the words and exhaled. I didn't reply. Some stories don't need a final paragraph. They just need a full stop. I closed my phone and smiled. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I was simply free. Months later, at the Womb of Fire gathering, a woman named Igioma stood up and said, "Naomi, you taught us that scars aren't shameful. They're proof we fought." The room erupted in soft applause. I laughed, then cried, then laughed again. I wasn't just a speaker anymore, I was a witness. A lighthouse. And these women? They were my tribe. We didn't just survive, we transformed. There was strength in our voices now. Not from perfection, but from perseverance. God had rewritten all our stories, not with ink, but with mercy. I returned to that same restaurant, alone. The waiter recognized me, his eyes wide with a memory he couldn't erase. "Would you like the private room?" he asked. I smiled. "No, here is fine." I sat by the window this time, watching Lagos bustle outside. I ordered jollof rice, grilled tilapia, and Chapman. No wine. No expectations. I was celebrating a different kind of anniversary, the day I chose myself. As I ate, a breeze blew through the window, carrying the scent of freedom and newness. And for the first time in years, I felt full. If you're listening to this story, dear sister, hear me, you are not broken. You are not barren. You are not less. You are becoming. Your worth is not tied to a ring, a womb, or a man's approval. God sees you. Even in the silence. Even in the waiting. Especially in the fire. And when you walk through it, because you will, don't just survive. Shine. I am Naomi. I was once humiliated in public. But now, I rise in purpose. And if you ever forget your light, just come sit with us. We'll remind you.